Ethan Graham is an international reporter who works, or rather used to work, for the IIB Broadcasting Network. He was fed up with the prejudice, biasness, and ethics of the news broadcasting channels, and therefore quit his job. The tension arose ever since he arrived to this country. Ethan was not sure what to believe until he stepped foot on the land himself. He realized the situation here was far from the lies he had been fed. Here, one side was inhumanely overpowering the other. The land that belonged to the people of the country were being unjustly taken from them, their homes being seized. People were suffering. Men, women, and children were devastated, treated unfairly. Once happy families were now being erased in the blink of an eye. Families were now broken. Children without their parents, parents without their children, wives without their husbands, and husbands without their wives. Ethan couldn't bear what these people were going through. He wanted this to end. The world needed to be aware of what was going on. What is this report? We can't telecast this. Call Graham right now. What nonsense have you sent? Not nonsense, the truth. You weren't assigned to send the truth. Your job was to report the narrative that would make our sponsors and our politicians happy. We're not in a truth-telling business. We're here to make money, and to make money, we have to keep our politicians and sponsors happy. Make a report in a way so the truth becomes blurred. So you want me to make the victims appear as perpetrators? Men, women, and children who are suffering, deprived of their property, land, and life as the transgressors? To make the victim's side appear blemished, supporting and whitewashing the side of your sponsors and politicians? That is exactly what you're going to do. Find someone else. I quit. The city was 4 hours from here, and Ethan was on his way. He rolled down his windows, letting in the moist breeze as he drove down an endless road in what was a seemingly beautiful, peaceful place. If only people knew what was really happening here. As he sped down the road, the thunder began rumbling loudly. Ethan looked to the skies as flashes of lightning were bright through the gray clouds. Men, women, children, young and old, are all suffering, who have never done wrong to anyone. Lord, are you really there? As the sun began to set, all of a sudden, the rain began to pour. It was becoming difficult to drive, and before long, Ethan found himself stuck on this lonely road. His engine had failed, and no matter how much he tried, tinkering under the hood in the rain, it was of no use. He looked around to see if he could spot anyone or anything. But for miles and miles, there was nothing. He attempted to catch a signal on his phone, but there was no network either. Ethan shrugged as he walked down the road in the rain. He scanned the area again, when his eyes spotted something a bit far up ahead. It was a building. Suddenly seeing a flash of lightning hit the ground towards the mountain ranges, Ethan thought he'd start walking. Perhaps he could find help there. About a 10-minute hike down the road and into the mud path that led to the stone house, he reached what seemed to be a monastery. He took shade under the roof and lifted the metal handles, knocking on the door. Within a while, an elderly man opened the door. Yes, my son? I was traveling through this area when my car broke down, and my phone doesn't have any network. Will it be possible for me to call for help from here? No, my son. There are no telephones in this house of worship. This place is very isolated, and the nearest phone is 5 miles from here in the market. Is there any way I can get there? You won't find any transport here, and you won't make it in this weather. Stay here for the night, and perhaps tomorrow you can walk to the market and arrange your transport. Seeing no other choice, Ethan decided to lodge at the monastery for the night. He followed the elderly man inside. The building was quite old, but it was spacious and quiet, so much so that their 2 lone voices echoed in the air. The elderly man escorted Ethan to a room. There lay a simple cot and a small table with a lantern placed on it. There was no electricity in this monastery. Rest here while I bring you some dry clothes. My clothes are actually in my suitcase, but I've left it in my car. No need to go out in the rain again. Tonight, you're my guest. You can wear my clothes." With that, the elderly man turned to leave. When Ethan asked him, "Is there a washroom here?" "Yes, 2 doors down to your left. Do take the lantern with you." As the elderly man left, Ethan took his lantern and went to the washroom. This was definitely not what he was used to, but he would have to manage. There was nothing in the room except for a pail of water stored to the side. There weren't even mirrors. In the dim light of the fire, Ethan washed himself with the cold water and returned to his room, where he found clothes left for him on the cot. It was a robe. Ethan wore it, but felt awfully shy to step out wearing clothes like this. He sat down trying to relax when the elderly man knocked on his door again. "You probably haven't eaten. I've prepared dinner. Please join me." So Ethan followed the man down the hall and out to the back of the monastery. Under the shade of the patio, the elderly man had a fire running and a pot of stew cooking on an earthen stove. The rain poured incessantly, and the winds were heavy, making the tree sway side to side. Noticing the pail of water the elderly man had fetched, Ethan realized there were no arrangements for water either. Down by the tree, there was a well. The elderly man laid down a mat and served some bread and 2 steaming bowls of soup. "Sit down." "Thank you." Ethan picked up the bread and had a bite, but it was coarse and hard and difficult to chew. "Dip your bread in the soup. It'll be easier for you," the elderly man said as he did the same. Ethan tore the bread and soaked it in the soup. He was surprised by how good it tasted. "What is this? This tastes so good." "Vegetable soup with some gourd and cauliflower. I grow these vegetables myself. It's wonderful." After the 2 men had their food, they sat on the patio watching the rain. "The weather is so nice. This is a great blessing of the Lord. We should be grateful to Him." "By this age of yours, you've seen so much in life. You must have so much experience, and you know what is going on, and you still believe in the Lord?" "My son, you're right. I've lived a long life. I've seen many things, and I know what is going on, but that is why I believe in the Lord." "But how?" "Because if there was no Lord, darkness would only have prevailed and never ceased. How many nations, empires, and dynasties were there who were so powerful that no one could have destroyed? But where are they today? In the dust. They're all in the dust. If there was no Lord, their rule would have never ended. Everything has an appointed term. After that term is fulfilled, no ruler can rule, no oppressor can oppress, and no victim shall suffer. Everything in this world is only temporary." Listening to the elderly man gave Ethan some peace of mind. This is so true. I never thought about it like that. After a moment of silence, Ethan asked again, "Do you live all alone in this monastery?" "There was a time when there were holy men better than me, who used to live here. We used to educate and preach to the people. Life was simple and beautiful, but they're no more. I am the last of them, and now I live here all alone." "Don't you feel lonely?" "No, life is good. I grow my own vegetables. Sometimes I go to the market. I cook my own food. I enjoy the weather, and I praise the Lord." As the night skies became dark, the elderly man picked up his lantern. "It's been quite some time after sunset. I wake up before sunrise every morning, so let's try to sleep. But if you have trouble sleeping, you can come here to watch the nature. You're in a holy place. Remember the Lord. It will bring peace to your heart. But you mustn't go to the far east end of the monastery. It's not a good place." "Thank you, and good night." Ethan returned to his room and laid down on the cot. As soon as he turned off the lantern, the room fell dark. He checked his watch. It was only 8 p.m. He closed his eyes, listening to the droplets of rain, and soon fell asleep. But it wasn't long before Ethan woke up again. Only 2 hours had passed. The rain still hadn't stopped, and now Ethan lay wide awake. After some time, he thought he'd take a walk around the monastery. This would probably be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. He walked down the halls with his lantern, remembering what the elderly man had said about the far east end. Why had he forbade him to go? Quite curious, Ethan made his way to the east end. But there was nothing there. He sighed as he turned to go back, when he suddenly heard a voice, a female voice. "Is someone there? Can you help me?" Surprised, Ethan followed the sound. When he realized it was coming from one of the walls, there was a door here he hadn't noticed. Ethan held up his lantern to a small window, staring at a young woman behind the bars. "Who are you?" "Please help me out of here. I'm a reporter. My name is Lily. I came here with my cameraman to film a documentary on this monastery. But this old man, he's not a holy man. Don't be deceived by him. He killed my cameraman and locked me up. I've been trapped here for 3 months. Please help me escape." "How do you open this door?" Ethan noticed a heavy lock on the door and took out his multi-tool. But no matter how much he tried to pick the lock or break it, it wouldn't budge. You won't be able to open this lock without the key. The elderly man always carries it with him at his waist. It looks like a dagger, but it's actually the key to this lock. He's probably sleeping now, but he'll wake up before sunrise. "Yes, I've seen it. Let me see what I can do." Ethan slowly walked back to the elderly man's room, looking inside to find him sleeping. He scanned the room to find the dagger on the table beside him. Without making noise, Ethan left his lantern outside, crept into the room, and got it. He then rushed back to the east end, where Lily was eagerly waiting for him. "Thank you so much." But just as Ethan placed the key into the lock and tried to open it, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around to see the elderly man running towards him. "Stop! You don't know what you're doing! Don't do this!" Ethan quickly tried to unlock the door, and just as the elderly man reached him, the lock fell to the ground. "What have you done?" At once, a heavy gust of wind entered the monastery, and the door flung open. Lily stepped out, suddenly letting out a laugh. A wicked laughter that sends chills down Ethan's spine. "You foolish man, how easily you men get deceived." The elderly man immediately began to chant something as he approached the woman, but she held out her hand, exerting a force so he couldn't reach her. "You won't be able to overpower me." The nearer the elderly man came to her, his clothes and skin began to burn. But he chanted louder. "Lord of Light, bless me with strength." All of a sudden, Lily felt furious as a force pushed her back into the room. Seeing the opportunity, Ethan got up and closed the gate and hurried to put the lock on. "No!" As Lily yelled, trying to break free, Ethan rushed to help the elderly man. "I have to take you to the hospital." "No, my son, it's time. I'm sorry, all this happened because of me. It was the will of the Lord that brought you here. You must be a good man, a man with a pure heart." Centuries ago, the holy men of this house of worship, men with pure heart, had managed to subdue this woman, Lilith, and locked her here. She is not what she seems. She is the supreme deceiver. If you think the world is covered with darkness, you don't know what she's capable of. In his last breath, the elderly man handed Ethan the dagger. Never set her free. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.